In the last video, we revealed our logo, and in this video, I'm going to show you some of my favorite techniques to add some extra polish and motion that will make this animation look a little more fancy than it really is. Back in After Effects, if we look at the example project that I made, you can see that there's these extra circle bursts going on. There's this whole curving motion that seems really difficult to animate, and I'm going to teach you a few ways to do that without actually a ton of effort. I know watching that, it might seem like if animating this was this hard, then animating something that's going from side to side might be even harder. I'm going to show you some ways to get around that stuff. The first thing we're going to do is create a null object. So a null object is yet another new After Effects thing that I'm going to teach you about. And we can create one by right-clicking New Null Object, and we'll get this kind of blank shape that actually doesn't show up. It doesn't do anything in your project. However, you can use it to control another layer. So if we take our hero shape and we go over here to parent and link, you can see this little spirally thing called a pick whip, and you can drag it and point it at our null layer, and you'll see that your parent drop down now says null. Now your null number might be different than mine, but that doesn't really matter. We can select our null object and hit enter, and we're going to call it hero null. And now we have a null object that is the parent of our hero shape. What in the heck does that mean? All right, let me tell you about parenting. And I'm resisting making some sort of stupid joke right here, so I'm just going to start getting into it. If you parent an object, you have the parent object and the child object. The parent object controls the child object. So the child can move independently, but any motion that the parent does will add on to that child's animation. So we can grab our null object, which is the current parent of our hero shape. We can drag it around, and you can see that the ball moves with it. If we scale this, it'll scale that ball. If we rotate it, it'll rotate it, and it will include all of the animation. So now we don't have a side to side, we have a diagonal motion. All right, with our null object, I'm going to show you how you can use animation layering to get some really complicated looking motion without actually being too complicated. So I'm going to make sure that all of my transform properties are reset. So my scale and everything is back to normal by hitting this reset button. And then I'm going to look through this animation, decide what I want to do. So I think I want this to actually start by going up, and then it kind of curves down and ends up going left to right. So we can do that actually by going here, just so we can see what's happening. We're going to go here to where it's kind of at the peak of the motion, and we're going to adjust our rotation property so it's at the top. So I'm going to slide this number until it says 90, and make sure you're sliding this number, not this one. Otherwise you'll get some crazy results. And I'm going to set a keyframe right there. So now we have an up and down motion. I'm going to go here before our logo is revealed, and I'm going to drag this back until we get back to 0, and it should have set another keyframe. So now if we hit play, you'll see we have some rotation now, but it feels really weird and stiff, and that's because we have our linear animation. So we got to get into the graph editor. So we got to get into the graph editor and make this better. I got my keyframe selected. I'm going to hit this button to go into the graph editor. Oh, it didn't keep my selection, so I'm going to reselect here and go over here and click this button to get an easy ease motion. So already if we play this, it's starting to look a little better, and we just need to play with these curves and until we get the results that we're looking for. Just to show you again how the graph editor works, if we right click and go over to the value graph, you can see that we have our 90 animation, or we have our keyframe at 90 and then our keyframe at 0, and we go smoothly between those. And then if we go to the speed graph, we have our speed that starts slow at the beginning and at the end, and then it's fast in the middle. So we can make that a little bit more extreme by dragging these yellow handlebars out a little bit, and we'll see how that looks. So I think I actually want more of this motion to happen earlier. So I'm going to drag this. I'm going to drag one of these keyframes back a little bit, drag this one out a little bit, and then make it so it's smoother here at the end and faster at the beginning. That's kind of looking cool. It's like this swooshing effect. Again, animation is all about the feel. It's not about anything precise. Every time I've recreated this video, it's been a little bit different, and that's okay. We're trying to make art here. It's not a science, it's an art. So I've tweaked this around until I got a nice smooth motion, and just like that, by adding a null and animating that and parenting our hero to that, we have a complex rotation and smooth curve without having to do a lot of custom work. We now have a good back and forth with a curve, so we're going to add some circle bursts like we have in our example. We're going to do that by creating a new shape layer. We'll go up here to Layer, New, Shape Layer, and we're going to hold down when we click on this rectangle and go to the ellipse tool. So because these ones are going to be perfect circles, they're never going to be squares, we're going to go ahead and use the ellipse tool, and we can just double click to get a perfect circle there. So I'm going to change the color of this to maybe like a dark blue, and I'm going to rename our layer by hitting enter and typing circle 01. I'm going to hit S to get our scale. I'm going to click this property and change the scale to 0 so our circle disappears. I'm going to hit a keyframe there. I'm going to go forward to about 12 frames and drag our scale all the way up to where our circle fills the entire screen. So I'm going to trim this layer to the edge by going to the end of our timeline and dragging the edge of this. So now our layer just disappears after it scales up. Boom, like that. Okay, so now we have a circle that scales up and fills the screen. We're going to make these linear keyframes easy ease by selecting them, and we can either right click or we can go up to Animation, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. You can also hit F9 on your keyboard if you want a shortcut version of that. So now we have a smooth animation, and we're going to go and adjust those curves a little bit by going in. We're going to right click and go to the value graph and zoom in with the plus key on your keyboard. I'm going to make this a little bigger so I can see, and I'm going to drag this up and get a curve that looks something like that. So that feels a little too fast to me. So I'm going to maybe drag this so it looks more like an S curve. I'll drag this last keyframe out a little bit. Again, it's all about the feeling here. We want to make sure it feels balanced, feels nice and smooth. And the last thing, we have our circle on top of everything. We're just going to drag it to be right above our background layer. So now as our circle grows, we have a big background circle that fills the scene. And now watching that, I kind of want it to be more dramatic. So I'm going to pull this back like that and see what something like this does. That was a little too dramatic, maybe. Maybe we'll drag this keyframe so it actually starts a little bit after. Still feels too fast. Again, a lot of just tweaking until things feel nice. We're gonna just drag these things around. Yes, that feels much better. Okay, so we have our first circle. Now we're going to just duplicate that layer so we don't have to do this a bunch of times by hitting Command D or Control D if you're on Windows. We're going to take that. If you hit U, you can see your set keyframes. And we're just gonna offset this layer a little bit in time and just drag it forward a little bit. We're gonna change the fill color to maybe a mid-tone blue. We're gonna do that again. So we have 3 circles now, and we're going to drag that blue into kind of a more of a tealish blue. You can pick whatever colors you want here. I'm just going with what floats my boat. I'm going to hit Control D, Command D again to duplicate one last time, and we are going to actually make this layer be the same color as our background layer. So I want these circles to actually disappear after they fill the screen. So we're going to select all of them and then go out to the end of the timeline and just click and drag on the edge to trim those layers. So now we have 4 circles that kind of explode out behind our main shape. And I think we can make these be a little faster. What do you think? Maybe even a little faster. Drag them back 1 keyframe. Ah, yes, that feels nice. So right here you can see that our last shape is not matching our background shape. So we're gonna just change the color of this one by selecting fill, but we're gonna move our playhead here till we can see the final background color. We'll make sure our shape layer, our 4th circle is selected, and click the fill color here, and then use the eyedropper tool to just pick that same color. So now it will look like we have these circles, and then the last one kind of reveals the background again, but it's just showing the same color. So it's kind of a little hacky way to do that. So hit spacebar, play through our animation. You can see that we have this new reveal. I'm gonna move the end of this work area to just fit that. All right, we're starting to get some more complex motion. That's some good stuff. Let's recap. We used a null object to add some extra rotation, some layered motion to our animation. We learned about parenting. We added some shape layer circles to add some extra accent, some extra motion at the beginning of our animation. And we have this result that is a much more eye-catching and complex looking animation with really only a few extra minutes of work. In the next video, I'm going to be showing you how to take this animation, add some extra style and effects and lighting to make it look extra nice and polished, and then we will be exporting our final animation and finishing this project out. See you over there.